time now for everybody's favorite guessing game, What's My Line? Brought to you by Remington Rand, makers of the revolutionary new Remington Rolectric. Now let's all play What's My Line?
Now let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
And this evening at my left will be an actor, sailor, man of the world, the gifted son of a very gifted father, Mr. Douglas Fairbanks, Jr.
And I have the pleasure, a very distinguished pleasure, of introducing you to a lady whose column is read from one end of the country to the other and abroad and all around the world, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
I would like to introduce our publisher and columnist panelist, who is the columnist for This Week magazine and the Saturday Review, Mr. Bennett, Cerf.
The gentleman that I usually introduce at this time, you know as a panel moderator and a news analyst, but I think you might be interested to know that when General Moose Stillman, the commandant of the U.S. Air Force Academy, met him in Denver recently, he was briefed wrong, thought that John Daly was Carol John Daly, the mystery story writer. So he spent the entire lunch talking to John about mystery stories and couldn't understand why he didn't get some response. So here he is, John Charles Sherlock Holmes Daly.
Well, I must say I think General Stillman is very generous because he was such a good talker that I didn't have any desire to say anything, and I think the cadets out at the Air Academy are lucky to have him as their commandant. By the way, Bennett and I, took up that little vendetta about what is a hog and what is a pig, etc., and we got to he was a big boar and I was a swine, and we decided to drop the whole thing. I wouldn't have dropped it, but when I got to big boar, I'm from South Africa, and I was at a disadvantage, and I still am. But it's nice to have you all here for What's My Line, and we're up to our old tricks. We're going to have some very interesting occupations and some very nice people attached to them. And we'll also have a famous mystery guest before the panel a little bit later in the show, and we'll meet our first challenger in just a moment. And now let's meet our first challenger. Will you come in and sign in, please? Jeanne? Jeanne Chaplin, is that right? I kept on hoping I could hold her purse, but she won't let me do it. Where are you from?
Vallejo, California.
Vallejo, California?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Miss or Mrs.?
Mrs.
Mrs. Chaplin? Mrs. Chaplin, I'd like you to meet the panel. I guess that's enough of a shock for now. You come with me, please. Would you sit right down here? And I wonder if you're familiar with the way we keep score.
Yes.
All right, then let's let everybody at home and our friends here in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, Mrs. Chaplin is salaried. And I think we ought to begin the general questioning at the end of the line with Miss Arlene Francis.
Well, Mrs. Chapman, do you deal with men and women in your work?
Yes.
Do they come to you?
Yes.
Is there any product associated with what you do?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Fairbanks.
Could I assume that you deal in services, Mrs. Chaplin?
Yes.
And is it a service that you wouldn't mind our watching you perform?
No.
Yes, Mrs. Chaplin would not mind you watching her perform the service, no.
That's fine. In other words, there's no particular privacy connected with it.
Right.
Is it a a service that you perform in your own place of business?
No.
No, I would think we would have to safely say that was not your own place of business, right?
No.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do you then work for someone else, Mrs. Chaplin?
Yes.
Do you work for a profit-making organization?
Yes.
Do you deal with adults more than children?
Yes.
Do you require any special skill? I don't mean education, but do you have to have certain skill or dexterity beyond what we four might have, for instance,
Yes.
to do it? Do you work with your hands at all?
Small conference. Yes, I think Mrs. Chapman would agree that she does have to use her hands. Yes.
Well, do you use any other part of your anatomy to any great extent?
No.
No, that makes it 3 down and 7 to go. Mr. Cerf.
Mrs. Chapman, isn't Vallejo, California, isn't that more or less in the center of the wine-growing belt? Don't they grow grapes there?
No.
This was just, this isn't asking a question. Geography, John.
As our said, he's a big bore. That's 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
Teach you to ask a foolish question, Bennett.
Hey, we got 22 minutes to go. I can get my head caved in. Miss Francis?
Mrs. Chapman, are people better off after they have seen you as a rule? Do you help them in some way?
Yes, I think you help them. I think it's safe to say that Mrs. Chapman contributes in a measure to the well-being of those who choose to come to that area where her services may be performed, that in the satisfaction of the need, they do find a certain pleasure. Yes.
Do you want to do the second stanza, or shall we just go? Do you advise them in any way, Mrs. Chapman?
No.
That makes it 5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Fairbanks.
Mrs. Chapman, as I recall, Vallejo is just a bit north of San Francisco.
Yes.
That's somewhere in near the big woods.
No.
Do you have any of the big
Near the big
trees?
woods?
You're in the same spot Bennett is.
No valleys, no woods, and 6 down and 4 to go, Miss
Well,
Kilgallen.
now, we have established that there is no product connected with what Mrs. Chapman does, right?
Right.
All right. But she does use her hands.
Yes.
Do you, would you consider your service a luxury rather than a necessity?
No.
No. That makes it 7 down and 3 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mrs. Chapman, do you wear a costume other than the ordinary sort of dress when you're performing this service?
No.
8 down and 2 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you touch the people you come in contact with?
No.
9 down and 1 to go, Mr. Fairbanks.
How are we doing?
Mrs. Chapman, is your service possibly connected with an inanimate object or possession of, let us call them your clients, not of themselves personally?
No.
I hope that the answer's no to that one. Well, I want you to meet Mrs. Jeanne Chapman, ferry boat pilot. Actually, Mrs. Chapman pilots a 200-passenger ferry boat between Mare Island and Vallejo. And if you want to get into the big woods or in the deep valleys inside where they grow the grapes, and you can get on this ferry boat, congratulations. That's all I got to say. And congratulations to you, Mrs. Chapman. Thank you for sticking the panels. Wonderful. Nice to have you back. Well, what a lovely evening it is, isn't it? Yes, I think so, too. Let's see if we can make it even better. Would you come in, the next challenger, and sign in, please? Milton Mayer. Is that right, sir? Where are you from, sir?
Pretty Texas.
I beg your pardon?
Pretty Texas.
Yes, it is, actually, I must say. And how are you, Dr. Dubious? Oh, no, that's wrong. Wrong line. Pretty Texas? Where's Pretty Texas near?
Oh, about 135 miles southwest of Fort Worth and Dallas.
130 miles southwest. Oh, well, fine. Lots of people know you then.
Yeah, this is quite a few.
Yes. The panel. 135 miles southwest of where we are, the panel. Come with me, if you will.
Grapes down there.
Are you familiar with the way we score things?
Yes, sir.
Good. In that event, let's let everybody here and those who are at home know exactly what your line is. I always say it's a great night for the Irish, isn't it?
It is.
And so we will tell the panel that you are self-employed, and let's begin the general questioning at the other end of the line with Bennett Cerf.
Well, Mr. Meyer, I'm sure there are no grapes down there. Not even sour grapes. Do you do a kind of work that would be done particularly in the part of Texas you come from?
Not particularly. Yeah,
Let me have a small comment, because, Bennett, we want to be...
Yes, I know you want to be fair to me.
We want to be very fair about
I know
this.
you do, Jim.
I want to ask Mr. Meyer a question. Do you think he'll understand if I tell him? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get... Actually, Bennett, I think that you may want to quibble with this no that you're going to get. But Mr. Meyer says that this is an area which actually covers a good deal of the United States in terms of the capacity to do what he does. So I'll have to give you a no, right? That's 1 down and 9 to go. Miss Francis.
Do you like what you do, Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
You look so happy. Do you do it out of doors?
Yes.
That's nice. Do you have to use your hands at all in what you
Yes.
do? Uh-huh. Do you deal in any way with animals in what you do?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, in a very, in the most general sense.
Don't throw me off the scent, John.
No, I just don't want to mislead you, but as we do have these very broad classifications, you know, animal, vegetable, mineral, etc., and so forth, I would have to agree that Mr. Meyer answered your question correctly.
Well, he is out of doors. I mean, we're not going to argue about that, are we?
He's out of doors.
When you use your hands in your job, is it to handle any kind of an animal?
Yes.
As I was saying, as we get into the broad classifications... No, actually, I don't want to mislead you. We'll just leave it that. He handles an animal.
He handles an animal. Am I correct in assuming it is not a horse?
Small conference.
Well, you know a horse, John.
I have had a serious discussion with Mr. Meyer. He doesn't handle a horse, no.
He doesn't handle a horse,
Yes,
no.
he does not handle a horse, no.
Do you handle any sort of farm animals?
No.
No, not farm animals as we understand farm animals. That's 2 down and 8 to go,
I'm glad
Mr.
to be
Fairbanks.
out of it.
And you would consider the animal that you deal with a product, would you?
Yes.
And would you say that even though it's something which is known and used and followed by people all over the country, is it safe in assuming that it's probably better done in Texas than anywhere else?
Everything's
Yes.
better done in
There's nobody who admires Texas more than I do.
I felt we could get a free yes on that one anyway. So.
I'm a brave man, Doug. I agree with you. You got a yes.
Is it, could I ride it?
No.
That's 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Is this animal something other than feathered?
Yes.
Has no feather or mother.
Is it other than... Is it other than furry?
Yes. Slimy, isn't it?
Is it more slippery than not?
Is it more slippery than a knot? Yes. Oh, no, slippery than not. Yes, I would say it's more slippery than not. Yeah.
Yes.
Does it ever go near the water?
Does it ever go near the water?
Near or in?
Yes, I suppose so.
Would it be in the fish family?
The fish family?
No.
No. That's $4.06 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Meyer, there's something snaky about you. Would this animal you have something to do with have something to do with the snake family?
The snake family?
No.
No.
That makes it $5 to go, Miss Francis. I'm going to give you one more
Well,
minute.
now, if I saw you later, alligator, would I be any closer? Do you have anything to do with the alligator family?
No.
No. That's 6 down and 4 to go. Actually, I'm going to flip them all because I don't think you've even got a germ of an idea what it is Mr. Meyer
Oh,
does.
we're so far off?
Yeah. He raises worms. Thank you, Mr. Meyer. We flip them all. You get them by default. Thanks a lot. We haven't had as much fun as always.
John, could I point out to you that a worm might be a snake that weighs less than 100 pounds?
And as I've said before, Bennett's a big bore. We'll get this thing out, and he's going to call me a swine before the night's out, and I'll do it first. And in just a moment, we'll meet tonight's... Now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which I have to ask my friends on the panel to blindfold themselves. The blindfolds all in place, panel?
Yes, sir.
Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? All right. Panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we go to a different form of questioning. You ask one question at a time in turn, moving clockwise. And let's begin it with Miss Kilgallen.
Well, may I assume that you're not Elvis?
I beg your pardon, Dorothy?
I said, may I assume that our mystery guest is not Elvis?
Yeah.
I didn't follow that one.
I didn't hear any response from our guest.
Oh, you got a long one, and I will answer it before you get it. It is not Elvis.
Okay. Fine.
Mr. Cerf.
But can we assume that you are a member of the show business fraternity?
Well, there are several schools of thought on that. I like to believe so.
Miss Francis?
Oh, he's a deep one. Are you in motion pictures?
I didn't get that.
Oh, he's working his way up. Are you in pictures?
Frequently.
Good.
Mr. Fairbanks?
Having been a mystery guest myself, I'm trying to guess what sort of answers and voices I'd put on two in that spot.
He's rather
Have you-
himself, isn't he?
Yeah, he's peachy, yes.
Have you been on the stage as well as in pictures?
Intermittently.
Miss Kilgallen.
There is just one of you?
How many do you see here, John?
Yep, just one. Mr. Cerf?
Are you a star in one of these endurance contest pictures that are playing around town these days or are about to come into town?
Well, that's a rather difficult question for me to answer. You know, it was...
I don't blame you a bit.
Well, let me put it. I didn't mean to be. I didn't mean to play it down, but there are these 4-hour jobs coming along, super colossal spectacles. Are you a star
I've
of
never
one of
been
these?
in a picture that ran 4 hours.
Well, let's say 3. Let's say over 3. Are you in a picture that is here or about to come to New York that is one of these very long super spectacles?
Yes.
Miss Francis?
I was so busy thinking then I couldn't hear whether you said that. Did you ask if it was a picture that is playing now?
Or about
Bennett?
to.
Or about to?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it is one of the ones that are playing now, There's nobody with a voice that deep in 80 Days Around the World. And War and Peace has been on a while. Are you in a picture called The Ten Commandments?
Yes.
Mr. Fairbanks?
Oh, you're heaven in it.
Mephistopheles joins us.
Were you in a very extremely successful long-run play in New York that was made into a picture recently?
No.
One down and 9 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Well, I don't get the significance of that, so I could be wrong. I was thinking of Charlton Heston.
You were?
I sent my son over. I wouldn't have guessed him.
Well, it's nice to have you with us. The Ten Commandments it was. I think Bennett had it in mind, and Arlene nailed it down.
I must say, I stand in awe of all of you.
Well,
I thought I was being very clever, you know. It availed me nothing.
Well, cheer up. I've been with them now for, 6 years plus, and I'm in awe of them. I would only say some of the things I say because there are a few feet separating us.
But they were doing so badly earlier in the program, you know?
Well.
There aren't many voices like that.
No, I was afraid that deep voice would do it,
I was
Charles.
covering it up.
You weren't. It was way down here.
That's what comes of spending a year and a half.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Panel, I got to congratulate you. You did that very quickly. Let's see if you can do as well and as quickly with another challenger. Will you come in and sign in, please? Bob Foss, is that right?
Right.
Yes. All right. Where are you from, Bob?
Chicago.
Mr. Foss is from Chicago. Will you come with me, Mr. Foss, please? And, panel, you have about 2.5 minutes. I'll ask Mr. Foss if he knows how we score.
Yes.
Fine. If you know how we score, let's let everybody at home and those who are here with us in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right, please. Panel, you have a little less than 2.5 minutes now, so I will tell you that Mr. Foss is self-employed, and let's begin with Douglas Fairbanks.
Oh. Well, just taking my cue from the way they do these things, I'm going to take a chance and ask you, do you deal in services?
Yes.
As opposed to a product? And is it a service that we could use?
Yes.
Am I right in assuming that that it wouldn't matter if a man were married or a bachelor, he would still be...
Wouldn't make any difference.
Am I right in assuming that you need not be alone in performing your services? It can be done, you don't mind if...
No, he doesn't have to be alone.
Do people come to your place of business?
Yes.
When things are good.
Always good.
Do you need particular training for your business? A special education or special type of skill for
No, not by our standards. That's 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do you speak to the people that you service?
Yes. You're actually very gregarious, aren't you? Oh, Miss Olive.
He makes a fuss over them.
Oh. On that happy note, he makes a fuss out of it. I'll flip all the cards. That's all, because we run out of time. I'm sorry, Dorothy. Actually, Mr. Foss owns and operates a Turkish bath, the Luxor Baths in Chicago. We're going to have some fun with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Foss. Nice to have you with us. Good night. And now, before our panel says good night, here is a word from next week's sponsor. And our regards to General Stillman. I think he will agree there's no mystery writing about me. At least I hope so anyway, Bennett. And until next week, this is John Daly saying good night, Miss Arlene.
Good night, John. It was very nice to have you with us, Mr. Fairbanks. Come back again.
Thank you. And good night to you, and I hope I can come back.
I hope so, too. Good night, Doug. Good night, Bennett.
Good night.
Where are you going this week?
Well, this week I'm going up to New England, to Cambridge and Dartmouth, where they'll probably point out we missed everything tonight. Good night, John.
You going to Dartmouth?
Yeah.
There's a Kobe Jr. Well, never mind. I'll tell you after the show. And thanks very much for being with us on What's My Line?
Travel arrangements on What's My Line are made through American Airlines. American Airlines flies our contestants in luxurious comfort aboard DC-7 flagship. This has been a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production in association with the CBS Television Network. Be sure to see Remington Rand's great new television program, Gunsmoke, Saturday night on this...